She is the director of the Fraunhofer FOKUS and also professor for quality engineering of open distributed systems and Technische Universität Berlin. And I'm looking forward to listening to your words. The stage is yours. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy being here. I've been asked to talk about some ideas which would support new mobility schemes, new mobility approaches in urban environments. So I thought I'm going to talk about something called open urban platforms, which is considered to become a kind of operating system for the public space and for the public IT. And I'm going to talk later about what I mean with open, but urban is the meaning for how do we enable better digital solutions in urban environments. And platform is the meaning to enable quite flexible and diverse ecosystem based on some digital ICT components. So I come mainly from Fraunhofer FOKUS, which is for applied research. We are working on information and communication technologies in general. And of course, nowadays, we are interested in understanding how the networked world would change, would develop, would evolve, and how we make it secure and reliable and scalable, of course, and above all, to make it trustworthy. And to take you onto this short journey, I thought I bring some numbers with me. For example, about the number of internet users in the world. In 2017, it turned to be 50% of the world population having internet connection, which is a kind of, you might consider this to be a low number, but as compared to 1995, it was just less than 1%, and it was dramatically increasing. And of course, in high-tech environments, the numbers are way above, for example, North America with 84 and Europe with 74%. Technology is a little complicated. So as compared to the devices in the world, in 2014, there was a tipping point where there have been more SIM cards than people in the world. So more devices having connectivity via the internet, and this going to grow faster than the world population. Or in this year, we expect the devices connected via the Internet of Things to supersede the mobile devices. So that development is quite drastic. And we describe this with the German term, digitale Vernetzung, because the English translation doesn't quite take it, but it's about the omnipresent interconnection between the analog and the digital parts of the world. It's just one world. We sort of say develop a new shell around all our analog physical items, devices, processes, organizations, us as people around. And we consider this to compromise of the representation, digitalization, so there are always digital shadows, digital twins for something, and of the modeling of the physical parts, so that there's interconnection, aggregation, visualization of the available information about something. And then we can, near real time, monitor, better understand what's going on, and evaluate how it could develop and partially control the world. And now having another view on where do we stand, so we see quite some environmental and societal challenges. the previous talk also pointed at that. So just taking a view on cities, we have that they consume 75% of the global commons. They use 80% of global energy and produce 75% of the CO2 emissions. So it is a very dense environment to address the challenges we face in view of environmental and societal changes. And even more, they're going to be, in 2050, 2 billion people, more people live in urban areas than 2 years ago. So dramatic change, so that we need to reconsider what the urban environment could be. And there are quite some objectives, visions, and ideas about what a smart city could be. From a technical perspective, we say that we do interlink the different urban systems that we use to support mobility, to support energy and heat provisioning, to support food provisioning, and so on. And in essence, it's about the quality of life and work in an urban environment. It's about having innovative economy, sustainable environment, efficient use of the resources in the urban environment, and so on and so forth. So I have limited time. Sorry for this remaining German. But I want to make a point that whenever we discuss about such ICT-based smart ideas for the urban environments, at one point in time, one needs to consider how to evolve the administration and the steering of the urban environment, so that we can easily state all those smart city and community ideas won't work out if there isn't smart government, e-government, or even open government to support more, for example, interaction with civil society and administration, or with the enterprises. And you might all know where Germany stands. This is not very convincing as of today. So that is, for example, the Digital Economy and Society Index by the European Commission. We are below the mean, and we are not as high-tech as we could be and as we should be. And of course, one can change things. And many people worldwide have thought about this concept and vision of smart city and communities. In fact, you might find over 200 smart city definitions. They all vary in a kind, but they are all based on the digital networking. So I, for example, very much like the definition by the European Commission in an internal policy paper from 2014, where they say it's a city seeking to address public issues via ICT-based solutions on the basis of a multi-stakeholder, municipality-based partnership. So doing something new in view of the challenges we are facing. And there are various studies from Akatech, from Katrine, from international organizations in applied research that describe how ICT could really enable new smart urban solutions. And that is a selected list. So ICT, of course, is also a lot. But what we can determine is that, like in data-driven innovation in businesses, also for e-government solution, data is key. So urban data, which addresses the different domains in our urban environments, simply constitutes the basis for smart cities and communities. So they enable, or they are the inputs for new applications and business models They enable forecast, steering, and optimization options for your urban processes, or they provide new information offers and services for the citizenship. So as of today, you see that, of course, people see it and try to make use of urban data, but as of today, it's very silo-oriented. So it's developed within a certain branch, for example, for a virtual power plant, or for smart lighting, or for smart parking. But at the end, this all somehow belongs together. Just think about mobility problem, which is in a city like Hannover or Berlin, where is a mega event, where is some construction going on, and maybe specific weather condition. And of course, routing and the optimization of the traffic in the city is influenced by all these aspects. And we say, just make it available so that others can make use of the data that you use anyway. So that providing that input necessary for those innovative approaches means, well, make it public, make it easily used, provided via some public IT, which is part of the task that the administration should consider. So, and quite some initiatives are going on for a long time now. On the one extreme, it's about open data, so that data from the governmental offices is provided for free for anyone, for any use. Or it's about crowdsourced data, so that data which is yet not available in the urban environment is developed, is generated by the citizens in the city. Or we take the data from the digitalized urban infrastructures, so from sensors which are put in place in the streets or in some other infrastructures. So having this idea put forward, so data is a key and some kind of operating system to enable those applications and services, then another thing is important to understand. So municipality, in view of the ICT option, shouldn't think about yet another citizen service or citizen account, but rather they should become the enabler. They should become the platform providers so that others, enterprises, public organizations, NGOs, or even interested citizens can take those offers and provide their specific solutions. So this is rather being the enabler via this interoperable open platform to invite everyone interested, every local company and so on and so forth, to contribute to the smart evolution of the urban environment. Of course, these ideas are not that new. They are shared by quite many. There are big initiatives, for example, in Europe for smart cities and communities, where the municipalities, the providers, and the researchers agree, open, and share about a common architecture so that this vision of an operating system for the public IT becomes possible. They agree on reference scenarios, share best practices, and by that provide an access to software and hardware components that follow that reference architecture and which are at the end, should be at the end, interoperable and be able to be composed together. So it's about not reinventing, but rather agreeing on common understanding what the operating system of the public IT should be in an urban environment, and then to cooperate and adopt and adapt as needed to the specific of each city and community. of course, I don't get into the details. There are specifications which describe. But if one, so to say, tries to make it a little more comprehensive, then you could basically say that at the bottom there is public IT infrastructure. It's not only broadband connectivity, gigabit connectivity, but it's a kind of digital urban environment where we have the digital image of streets, topology, flow of people, and so on and so forth. Those are then put into a common urban data platform where non-personalized, non-security critical data is provided at the one end as open data for anyone, for any use at no cost. At the other hand, for all, for example, the mission-critical, security-critical forces of the municipality, which are highly secured and which sort of are given only to the specific groups and authorized people. And in the middle, there is commercial data, or there's data which is given only to experts by, for example, public institutes. So it's a whole marketplace of data, completely closed, highly secured, up to completely open for anyone, for any use. And then on top, once you have this platform where, so to say, you get to know what's going on in the urban environment, then you can think about tooling. So how to combine, analyze, collaborate on the basis of this data. And for example, in Berlin, we had a European project on how to improve multimodal mobility, in particular with a focus on the pedestrian and the bicycles. Or we do have a catastrophe warning system, which we provide via smart devices like smartphones or smart buildings, lighting in smart buildings, where we can warn about specific situations and also provide information how to behave, what to do, what not to do. Or we provide policy compass support so that people can aggregate certain statistical, environmental, or political data and discuss together whether certain political decisions have, so to say, really impacted the development of the, say, unemployment rate in a certain city. Okay, so key, again, I strongly believe, are these urban data platforms. So you have to have urban data in order to enable it, and you have to have some agreement in which form and in which architecture, along which interfaces and services this data is being provided. So there are more examples, of course. You could then consider navigation support. Outdoor is a kind of typical for everyone, but there would be also good support for indoor navigation and the combination of outdoor to indoor. For example, think about these booths here to find an easy way to the detox would be nice. Or one can better support the autonomic driving test track in Berlin-Charlottenburg, where we consider how to enable automated driving in urban environments. Cut one I had. We do have even the virtual power plants to improve the renewable energy provisioning from the surroundings of Berlin to the various places of use. Okay, I need to become a little faster. And I want to turn one more, so to say, statement along that. So now I try to argue for the need of operating system in urban environments and for the central role of urban data, but I want to also argue again about the openness of this platform and partially of the data, because only that enables technical diversity or scalability of the urban ecosystem, or last but not least, the urban resilience, because we should, so to say, provide not only in society but also with our technical infrastructure quite some heterogeneous approaches which, however, agree on common grounds. And these common grounds are the architectures which are put forward in certain standards and then shared and checked for compliance and conformance and interoperability. So from another perspective, we know that urban environments are quite fragile. Now, I do not only talk about the existing infrastructures in high-tech environments, but also wherever in the world. So they are quite formal, but also informal settlements. And digitalization adds a kind of new dimension to this fragility and autonomy of the technical systems. So as long as we put forward this idea to improve urban processes by ICT solutions, we also, on the other hand, need to make them secure, scalable, performant from first place. So they need to be trustworthy and by themselves resilient. And I strongly believe that the technical diversity is again also an answer to this question of how to make them more secure and reliable. So that means it's not only about open data, but it's about sharing the understanding how this infrastructure should look like, putting forward in standards, but giving these standards to everyone interested, so they should be open. And then the technical solutions which adhere to the standards should then have open interfaces. The whole success story of the internet, or part of the success story, is really that there have been some common agreements how the protocol stacks look like. So that's Internet Protocol version 4 and version 6. How the web browsers should look like. This is HTML and all the agreement along HTML. Now we have again some disagreement, and you see that immediately there are some separations and uneasy developments which cannot easily get from one to another device. So once you have this openness in the interfaces, in the formats, then you also have a means to bring forward the urban data idea, the platform idea, and the quality in that. So at the German Council for Global Change, we work exactly on this idea, how, so to say, sustainability and digitalization can go hand in hand. We had before a report on urbanization, and now, so to say, we reconsider this urbanization in view of digitalization. And that brings me already to some final examples. So really that not only there is a need for open standards and also, if possible, open source software, but there are also examples where one can start with. For example, in Berlin, there's an open data portal, has been launched already several years ago, and the underlying software is available to everyone. Then the German Open Government Data Portal, again, is built as an extension of the Berlin Data Portal, again available. It also provides some license conditions for the data and some processes and best practices, what to do, how to do, what are the things one would recommend to be provided via that portal. And now we do it even in Europe for 30 countries, so that this governmental and urban data is really available to the public so that new business ideas can evolve. And of course, it's only a short presentation. There are more things to look at. For example, there is a specification by the German standardization organization what the open urban platform should look like. There is a huge study on how smart cities could be understood in view of digitalization. There's an upcoming study on urban data spaces, so what could municipalities, also small municipalities, could do in order to enable data ecosystems in their environment. And there is in Berlin a very active network on how to make Berlin smarter. So that sums up my talk. So I wanted to bring across the idea that we should really work and agree on this idea of platforms as our operating system for public IT, in order to also, from the public view and in the interest of the public, to enable ecosystems with the stakeholders in smart cities and communities. They at best should follow some ideas of openness with respect to standards, interfaces, software, so that for everyone the efforts are lowered to come up with a new business model, with a new great service, with a new great application. And in the center of the consideration needs to be the urban data. It's available. It's often already being digitalized, but it needs to be made available to the public. Could be paid, that's not the point, or it could be commercial data, but it needs to be accessible for those that are interested in doing something more out of that. And of course, when we enter such technical infrastructure, which becomes central and supporting almost every urban process, then this needs to be reliable, secure, trustworthy, resilient, so that digital resilience needs to be considered right from the beginning. So thank you very much for listening, and I'm happy to take some questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Schieferdecker. Thanks. So let's have a look on the questions, and maybe we can put it on the slide so we can see the questions. So let's start with the first one. What can we learn from other countries in terms of smart cities?
Okay, I would say not from countries, but from other cities. There are different smart city indices which highlight certain dimensions of smartness in cities, and one can look at Helsinki, at London, at New York, at Berlin, of course, at Vienna. It really depends on what you are interested in, and I'm very convinced that you would find some reference solution in some city somewhere in the world.
So you can see, you can ask your questions, and maybe you can go to the website slido.com and you can enter the password CEBIT 18 and then go to hall 27 and ask all the questions. But let's move on. We have another one in German. Befördert Digitalisierung nicht auch eine Renaissance des ländlichen Raumes, da infrastrukturelle Nachteile weniger wichtig werden?
So this question is about if digitalization can also help to enable smart countryside. I'm a strong believer of that, but it would be a different talk, because as opposed to these dense environments in city, smart countries are not dense and they require different solutions still. I believe this core element of urban data, so to say, remains, is the same, but what is being done around this data, so the solution itself looks different. as compared to a city if you take the countryside.
The next one is your arguments are convincingly showing the advantages of open data for city planners. Why isn't up happening in European cities?
Well, it is. It is. I think it's simply not known, and it's also not being done only in European cities. It's being done in Asian cities, in American cities. But I think we need to bring it forward more to the administrative people, to the enterprises of the communities and so on, because this knowledge, what could be done, should be spread, and as software can be rather easily taken if it follows open standards, open interfaces, and so on. There are quite some good ways to reuse and adapt to specific needs. So, but there are references, for example, there is a Eurocity Alliance, and so on and so forth. So if you are interested, I can give you some links to the other initiatives.
And you mentioned the government before, and the next question is about the government. What is the role of our government in terms of smart cities?
I think whenever there is public procurement, the government and the municipalities need to require the adherence to open standards and open interfaces. Only then we can scale up the environments. So it shouldn't be closed box solutions. As great as they are, almost every big company has an offer for a smart city and community, but they should open up so that others can share and contribute to this ecosystem.
And the next one is about our responsibility as a society in terms of smart cities.
Yeah, so I think the citizens should put their voice, what we want to have in the public IT, what we want to require from the government, from the municipality to be put in place in public IT. As I said, in one sentence, the digitalization of the urban space is not only about broadband connectivity. It's an enabler, definitely. It's needed and it needs to be done, but it's more than that. It's really strong, flexible, scalable information offers and urban data offers. And we should sort of say really ask for that and require them to develop, if needed, the regulations or the laws to do that.
Thanks again for your inspiring insight, and warm applause from the audience.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.